High on a hill was a lonely goat herd. Lady-o, lay, ee-hoo. Love that song. Loud was the voice of the lonely goat herd. Lady-o, loo. Folks in a town that was quite remote heard lady-o, lay, ee-hoo. Lusty and clear from the lusty goat herd, lady-o, loo. Lay-o-ho, lady-o, lay-ho-ho, oh, lady-o-loo, oh-ho. I guess I better get started. I love that song. Hello from Oregon. Hi, Dana. Hi, Tammy. Hi, Lisa. Nice to see you, California. Good evening from Lynn Haven, Florida. That's the second time I've heard that. I got to find out where Lynn Haven. I think we talked about that last time. Wonderful. No, I don't have a beautiful voice. But thanks for saying. Okie doke. Well, the reason I thought of it is because we had lots of animals at one time. Right now, it's just my husband and me. But there was a time when our children were growing up that we had bees and goats and chickens and ducks. And yeah, my sons and my husband kept bees. We had our own honey. Chickens, we had generally about 30 chickens until the fox would come, and then chickens would be carried off. And then we had ducks. We had peacocks for about 3 days. They were carried off. Actually, I think they ran off. Peacocks have the propensity for doing that. And we lived in a terrific area in upstate New York, outside of Buffalo, New York, I should say. And down the road were llamas, and up the road were cows, and it was just a great place to raise kids. And right across the street was a ski resort, so our kids had plenty of nature, and they complained bitterly they wanted to be with other kids, but I think later on they realized how great a life that was for them. At any rate, what I just wanted to bring up was that injuries were a big part of our lifestyle. Our sons, our goats, our dog. We also had dogs, and we had dogs birthing all over the place. We had a cat. Anyway, and I took care of a lot of the animals, farm animals, on the road for friends and farm friends and neighbors, etc. And people often ask me, so what if it's a cow? How many pills do you give? What if it's a chick? We raise the chicks. We bought the whole, you buy a whole pallet of chicks. It's really funny. In the mail, I might add. We've also bought bees that way too. In the mail, you actually go to the post office. There's a big box, all screened, and the bees are in it, or the big box and all screened, and there are chicks in it. So it's the same. Just so you know, it's the same. You use the same remedies, the same potencies, the same frequencies. Everything is the same. Now, the number of pills is generally the same, but if you figure that approximately 4 pills works well for an adult, then you can say, 3 or 4 pills for a child, 2 to 3 pills for an infant. But you could still give the infant 4 pills. It's not going to do the infant any harm. It's just it's unnecessary. So, but for a cow, when you open that mouth and look inside, it's pretty big. They're huge. And so we would put the pills, open up I'm sorry. We're going to have to close this. Excuse me. We've got a neighbor who's weed whacking. Hold on a second. Okay. And there is, I imagine that there are ways to do this more efficaciously than I did. But there he goes. He's a master weed whacker. And but if you put in about, 4 to 6 pills into a cow's mouth inside the mucosa, so that it gets into the mucosa between the lips and the gums, it's going to get in there. Now, some people say they just put the remedies in water, and then the cow just drinks it. Now, I must admit, I do that with Buster. Sometimes he's a lot of effort to get the pills in there. So instead, we just put it in water. So you can put it in water. People say, well, why not just put the pills in water all the time? And this is my answer to that. If you're dealing with something that's really uncomfortable, painful, serious, noteworthy, I wouldn't put it in water then. I would only use it in water. I would only use a liquid dose if that's what the protocol called for. But I would not play around with being a pharmacy, essentially, if it's something that's really serious or something that you really want to be sure you're getting on. If it's not so important, and it's, it's kind of a low-level gut problem, or you've got hair loss, a little hair loss. Now, if you got a lot of hair loss, and the way I feel about it is, you better bet I believe I'm going to take the remedies exactly as the directions say. I think that homeopathic medicines are not nearly as touchy, as idiosyncratic, as fragile as they have been made out to be. So based on that, you can start playing with it a little bit. You can start, if you feel that it's valuable, then great. If you don't feel it's valuable, not valuable, if you feel as though it's important, then stay with the exact. If it's not so important, then, play around with it a little bit. That's how you're going to learn. So injuries are what we're going to talk about tonight. And this is an excellent medicine. When people first start learning about homeopathy, they learn the first remedy they generally learn about is arnica. And arnica is a great medicine for soft injuries, soft tissue injuries, also head injuries, also hematomas, bleeds, internal bleeds, those kinds of things. Arnica is amazing. Bellis perennis, B-E-L-L-I-S, Bellis, B-E-L-L-I-S, perennis, P-E-R-E-N-N-I-S. It's actually just daisy made into a homeopathic medicine. And it is great for soft tissue injuries, even further than arnica. If you've used arnica and you find that it's not doing enough, or you want to move a little further, you can always use Bellis perennis. You could use one or the other. Most people use arnica because that's what they've learned, but I actually find that more often than not, when it comes to certain injuries, Bellis perennis is better. When is it better? When the injury is definitively soft. Seatbelt injury across the breast. Mammogram injury. And soft tissue to the breast, or soft tissue, which is the breast. A hard baseball to the genitals of a boy or a man, a fall on a fence where the genitalia has been injured for a man or a boy. What else is a good one? I think I came up with a couple more. Let's see if I can find some others. Oh, after childbirth. After childbirth. I've always used arnica, but you know what? When a woman has been through a childbirth in which Pitocin has been used, where the baby's head is hitting hard, and the baby is still not coming, or the baby's coming slowly and it's hitting hard, and that's Pitocin, folks. Pitocin is more often than not superfluous, terribly superfluous. And so afterwards, the woman's soft parts, the womb, the uterus, the ass, the birth canal, the whole vaginal area is sore. And that is when we want to use Bellis perennis. Generally, I use arnica because it's great for bleeding, and bleeding often occurs, of course, after childbirth or during childbirth a little, and then more often after. But Bellis is very specific to the tissue injury. Now, I've had 2 cases of women who have come to me long after they've had a mammogram. One was years later. It was a long enough ago story that I don't remember. It was something like 3-4 years prior to this woman coming to me. She had a mammogram, and she had tremendous breast pain on one side. And when she was getting the mammogram, she noted that particular side was very much more painful in the way they were giving her the exam. It wasn't that she went in with this pain. That pain was caused by the procedure. When she got out of the exam, she was in pain. That night, she was in pain. She took Tylenol. The next day, in pain. She was not in tremendous pain as I recall, it was something like a 4 or a 5, but it was disconcerting. Breast pain from injury is something we need to think about. And she came to me years later, still having this pain daily. She was past menopause, so it had nothing to do with her menses. And so it was, the remedy that I used at the time was Arnica montana, because that's what I knew at the time. I thought of Arnica because it was the first remedy we think of when we're trying to clear an old remedy. We think of Arnica first, and then we usually follow with Bellis Paranis. But Arnica montana did it. We used Arnica montana 200C. I don't remember how often we used it, but today the way I would use it would be twice daily for several days until the pain abated. Once the pain abated, then we would stop using it. If the pain returned, we don't say, oh no, it's back again. No, think this way. Oh, good. I have not finished the work that needs to be done here. I need to go deeper. So I need to use the remedy again and again. So we go right back to it twice daily. Today, I would use Arnica montana for an injury such as that, Arnica montana and a 200C twice a day for the first day. And then after that, because that would kind of absorb the shock of it all, then I would go to Bellis Paranis. You can use Bellis in a 6, a 30, a 200. You could use it in a 1M. But I most likely would use it in a 200C potency. Then I had another case, same idea, where a woman was had a mammogram. Same thing, injured by the mammogram. It didn't last as long as the first woman's. It wasn't years. I think it was months, weeks or months. And in that case, I used Bellis Paranis. It was beautiful. It acted well. I think I only used a 30th potency. But it was very, very efficacious. It worked within a night or two. Both of these women complained not being able to sleep on their stomachs. Both of them could barely sleep on the side of the injury. So this is excellent for testicular injuries, soft tissue, breast injuries, what else? Buttocks injuries, seatbelt. When someone has been in an automobile accident, often it's the last thing we think of, but there can be injuries from that. In addition to, of course, you can get a broken rib from a seatbelt. And then, of course, we're going to be using remedies that are specific for the broken rib. And concomitantly with that, we will be using something for the soft tissue injury. If it's there, sometimes it's not. If it's not, do we use it? What do you think, folks? If the injury is, you're assuming that the injury is there, do we use the medicine anyway? Let me ask you that. I want to remind you folks that I do this every week. We've been doing it for quite a while now. I plan on continuing as long as my life allows for it. I will be here every Monday night Eastern Standard Time. Unless I'm half dead, and as I always say, unless I've gotten hit by a snowplow. But now that I live in Florida, I'm in my cottage right now, so I'm not in Florida. Unless I get hit by a snowplow, I'll be here. I want this out there. And I want you to share it with others and teach others. Teach homeopathy. Yes, heart to you too. I love it. I love it. Is it topical? No. I will tell you when we are using a homeopathic medicine that is topical. I don't use very often. I don't use that very often. I use the little pills. You know, the little pills. You open it up. Squeeze. This is a boron. You turn the cap, and the pills fall into the little cap, and you just put them right into the mouth. Some people believe that you can't chew them, but getting back to the goats and the chickens and the camels and the cows and that I've treated in the past, and babies and children, and even myself, it's hard to get people to just keep the pills under their tongue. That is where it's going to absorb best, but it needn't be there at all. By the way, the pills are made of sucrose or lactose, and sometimes a combination of both. And the pills are not the drug, it's not like a drug where it's all in there. The homeopathic medicine is on the outside of the pill. So if you're taking these medicines and you don't want all the sugar or sucrose, you can suck on them and actually spit out the rest, and you'll still get the medicine. So Watch for that, because a lot of times I teach folks to use a lot of medicines simultaneously. One is taken at, say, 8 o'clock. The next one is at 5 after 8. The next one is 10 after 8, etc. And it can be a lot of sugar for some people. Homeopathic medicines also, by the way, can be purchased in alcohol and in water. So if someone absolutely can't have any sugar, although we don't really worry about that with sucrose and especially lactose. And I will do an evening on that subject of why do they put them in lactose and why sucrose and why is that, most people are very concerned about sugar, but you needn't be when it comes to these pills. Generally speaking, it's not a problem. So what else do we have here? Let me just see if there's anything that I am missing here. Bellus Perennis brings about relief when arnica does not. So watch for that. Sometimes we think that it's a not soft tissue injury, and it turns out it is. So watch for that too. So if you're using arnica and you're finding that it's just not doing enough, even though you're not 100% sure that it's soft tissue, you might try it then. Let's see if we have any other questions here. Hi, Michelle. Yes. Do we use it? Yes. Hi, you're in Chico. I know you are. What about tongue tie revisions where soft tissue? Yes, ma'am. Yes, soft tissue, tongue tie revisions. I would definitely consider using Bellus Perennis. Yes. And if there's a lot of pain, and usually there isn't, but if there's a lot of pain, I would add Hypericum 200C. There's that Jupiter Farms. Yeah, Florida, you folks have got that farm. I know. Got to get in touch with you folks when I get back down there again. Yes. So here's the thing. If someone has a seatbelt that comes across them in a car accident, and they're not in pain, and there's really nothing serious that occurs, or not serious, even mild, I would not use the medicine. I might use this one. I might use arnica, because arnica is about shockiness and an overall sense of shock, as well as injuries and perhaps internal bleeding. So I might go more with arnica montana. If I didn't have symptoms, I wouldn't likely use it. That's good, Dawn. That's good. Yeah, generally speaking. I can never get them out of the little tube. I get so frustrated that I usually take the inside. Well, if you're talking about these, boron, you simply twist it. And as you twist each one, so I've already twisted it 3 times, I have 3 pills. Twist again, 4 pills. Twist again, 5 pills. Twist again, I can hear them. Hear it fall? There's the next one. I probably have 6 pills in here now, in the cap. Then you release the cap. Be careful, they're going to spill all over if you don't do it properly, if you don't have it, right side up. And then toss them in the mouth. So I want to give you a little update on my eyes, because some people have been asking me, and I don't know if you can see, I still look kind of wrinkly in there. They're kind of swollen. Not swollen, I would call it more checked, like a nice piece of furniture that's aged. But this is as a result of what happened to me several weeks ago, actually about 3 or 4 weeks ago maybe, while I was in Florida, and I was suspicious that it was chlorine in the water, because I'd been swimming 45 minutes every day, loving it. And it became my new routine. And my eye got very swollen, and I discussed it a few times, and I landed on sulfur. Sulfur turned out to be what helped me the most. And it worked a great deal. It helped bring down the swelling. So did Apis. There were a couple of them that had helped bring down the swelling. And I talked about it on the blog the other day as well. I think it was my podcast. And it helped a great deal. But now I'll tell you what I've been using is ambrosia. And ambrosia is very specific for itchy eyelids, because that's what's remaining. It itches under my eyes still, but especially on top. I don't know if you can see that. Right here is where it itches. I've rubbed away my eyebrow. I look like the Velveteen Rabbit. It's kind of rubbed away from rubbing it and scratching it so much. You know how the Velveteen Rabbit was loved so much that the fur was rubbed away. So that's what's helping me, ambrosia. I'm also taking Bovista because it was an allergic reaction of sorts. Now, everyone knows that your eyes get red and burn a little bit when you're in chlorinated water. But I didn't dive in the water. I side-stroked. I breaststroked. I backstroked. So water would get in my eyes a little, but I wasn't underwater with my eyes open. But it's funny because I mentioned it, and people have been reacting on or mentioning that they too, there was one woman in particular who said that she too had a reaction to chlorine and her eyes swelled and she had random rashes all over her body, and it took a very long time for it to abate. And indeed, that's exactly what I had. I've broken out in little eczema patches here and there. I don't think you can see it. It's very small. Another one across the back of my neck. I had another little eczema patch under my mouth. I haven't had eczema, I think I've mentioned this before, since I was 13. So it was a big switch for me. So I believe that it's going away. I do believe it's the chlorine. I guess I have to look into hopefully convincing my little community that we can perhaps go to salt water. Or I'm going to have to find another form of exercise. I'll have to swim in the ocean amongst all of the seaweed, regardless of the size of the waves, I guess. So there you have it, folks. I always say, pursue the lofty. Do what's good. Good for yourself, good for others, especially, because when you do for others, when you do good for someone, then it comes back to you. You want me to answer a question? There are a lot of questions? There are more questions? Okay. And I'm about to wrap it up, but now I guess we've got a lot of questions, or a few. Okay. Let's see. Details in the podcast. Yes, love ambrosia. Yes. Ambrosia is a great medicine. It is made from, what's the pollen outside? It's made from ragweed. Thank you. Ragweed. You're loving my materia medica. Thank you. I really appreciate you're saying that. I like to know whether or not it's helping people. I had a core needle breast biopsy many years ago and was terribly sore before I was using homeopathy. I think Bellas would have been the best remedy then after arnica. You bet. But biopsies are also quite helped by ledum, L-E-D-U-M, ledum pilastra, because it's an injury that is a needle of sorts. Okay, tiny pills that are 200 are hard to get out. Okay, let's see. The tiny pills are hard. Oh, really? Okay, I don't find that. What about after a mastectomy? Well, I believe I've written about post-surgical remedies. I'm pretty sure we have a protocol on that on the website. That's where I would start. But yes, you bet. You could use that. You could certainly use it. It's, it would be arnica or Bellis paranus in that situation. Even after years later, since childbirth, but still painful, you bet, if that's the pain. Now, I know, I have a friend actually who had, during her birth, she was sutured and a needle was left inside. And for years, not years, months, she had pain, stitching, needle-like pain until they realized what had happened. So make sure it's the right kind of pain. This is a soft tissue type pain, but you bet it could be quite useful. I would definitely use Bellis paranus for an old childbirth pain. After swollen gums and sores in the mouth after getting braces on the teeth. Yes, I think you could use it. I most likely use Hepar sulf for something like that, Hepar sulf 6. Coconut oil swished in the mouth, which is not homeopathic. Ruta can be useful if it's not the gums that are painful, but actually the tendons and ligaments. What else? Arnica, yes. But yeah, Bellis paranus could be used for that. You bet. Good to know about spitting out. Any tips on getting the teeny pills out of the little vials that come in the kit? Oh, in the kit. Yeah, you have to go back and forth until you can get them out. And if you need glasses, then you better put some bright lights on. You know, there are advantages and disadvantages of that kit. And one of them, of course, is that you've got all the remedies at hand and they're easily transportable. And you have generally what you need, but it can be a little bit of a nuisance. Okay. If there were one book on homeopathy you could recommend for a beginner to read, what would it be? Well, I would suggest you read my blog. There's so much information there. I've been authoring my blog for 10 years almost, and it's free. And it would depend on what you're looking for. If you're looking for something for young children and acutes and coughs and colds, then you might get one kind of book. Dana Ullman has a good book. But I have some, I would say that you're going to get a lot of great information from my blog and my podcasts. And then consider joining a study group, one of our study groups, so you learn en masse with others, and then consider getting more involved in courses should that be the direction you're interested in going. So, all righty, I think we can call it a wrap. And I can say one more word about doing good. Do good for others. It really is an incredible sensation to know that you've done the right thing. Right now, my mother, who is has advanced stage Alzheimer's, who lives with my husband and me, is spending a month with my brother. And boy, is it different without her. And I feel there's a lot of work involved with taking care of someone with that condition. And so I suddenly have more time on my hands. I didn't realize how much time I'd been putting into working and keeping her as healthy as I can. But I miss it. I really miss it. And I miss her, and I miss the work. I miss the responsibility. I miss the consistency that makes me get up at a certain time and go to bed at a certain time. She's our inner clock. And that's a great thing when it comes to taking care of others. So take on responsibilities, folks. Help as many as you can. And with that, I wish you a wonderful summer evening, and mwah, God bless you all. Bye. See you next week.